It's been interesting, like over the last couple of months or so, while I've been working with Shannon and his team on bringing this together. I've been complaining about the fact that I'm moving house, and trying to move house in a pandemic is a bit of a challenge. I don't know if anyone out there is also experiencing that, but our next guest is taking it to another level. He hasn't just moved house; he's actually moved countries. He's moved from the US to Canada, where he's going to be beaming in from today. And apparently, if you do make a move into from one country to another, if you do it with two greyhounds, it's going to be far harder than doing it with two toddlers. I'm not sure if that means that Ron is doing it with two greyhounds and two toddlers, or the greyhounds instead, and just has previous experience with toddlers. Either way, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. One, I asked Ron, or when we spoke, Ron asked about what he really misses from COVID. It turns out that Ron used to take people on joyrides in NASCARs. And apparently, because it's very difficult to do social distancing in a NASCAR traveling at 300 kilometers an hour, that's been off the cards for a little bit. But thankfully, he's made time in his busy schedule to join us today. So please welcome Ron King from Trimble MEP, who's going to be talking about the industry standards for estimating labour hours. Welcome, Ron.
Hey, thank you, Simon. Thank you. A little bit of a flip there. So I was in Canada and I have now moved back to the U.S. So I was born in Texas and moved to Canada with Trimble and have now moved back. So yes, it was a little bit of a challenge. And, traveling with greyhounds were like traveling with two little kids. But I'm going to probably turn my video off here in a second because moving into the new house, we don't have Wi-Fi up and running yet, so I'm having to run off my hotspot, and I don't want to have any issues with that running. So I'm probably, we'll see how that goes. Anyways, Simon, can you guys see my screen okay?
We can see your slides at the moment, so we're just ready for you to kick off.
Oh, good deal. Okay, want to make sure that that's the one we were on. All right, so hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session on the MCA WebLEM Plus, which is an update to what we've been doing on the WebLEM. And I'd like to go over some of these new exciting changes that we've made and let you know what the committee's been up to. So I hope this gives you a better insight into the MCA labor units. Just as a little bit about myself, I've been in the the MEP industry for 39 years. I've been with Trimble for 14 years. Prior to joining Trimble, I was with a multi-trade contractor in Ohio for 17 years. I led the mechanical division of that the last 7 of those 17 years. I co-chair the MCA WebLEM committee and have been a member on that committee since 1999. And I also serve on the PFI, the Pipe Fabrication Institute Engineering Committee, and I've been on it since 2012. Before I go any further, I'd like to just recognize the members that are on our committee that work extremely hard for bringing all of our membership, these labor units. So first of all, Tim Moormeyer with US Engineering, he is co-chairman. He's my partner in crime here. Tim spoke a couple years ago here at WebLEM MEP Oz, and he had a great presentation. Next on the list here is Paul DeBella Mechanical out of Santa Clara, California. Then Kevin Dobendick, Humphreys Company, Houston, Texas. David Pikey, Hill Group, Chicago, Illinois. And Nick Buffard, who is our MCA staff liaison. So each of these members bring different expertise to our committee so that we can have knowledge across all of the entire mechanical industry, or as much of it as possible. So it's a very hardworking group, and these are the guys that are behind the numbers. So, what is the WebLEM Plus? Just for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's a web-based compilation of labor units and component data for a vast variety of items and activities related to the mechanical construction industry, specific to our piping and plumbing trades. It's not an estimating system, but instead it's a database of labor units proven to be the most accurate and complete collection in the world for our industry. We truly believe that it is the best compilation of labor units. So what are some of the key benefits of using the WebLEM? We think, the first one is pretty obvious. It is internet-based. So anytime you've got an internet connection and you've got connectivity, you can you can access, you know, the different labor units. It has searchable content. The search engines on here are extremely robust compared to the previous version. It also has real-time updates, meaning as the committee member were to formulate new labor units or update labor units, it's real-time. We publish them, and all of the membership gets that real-time. There are tables that are downloadable. However, we do limit that download to 10 tables, and that's by design that we do that. You know, the WebLEM really is primarily used on a downloadable type project, you know, for like change orders or something like that. Whereas all of your software companies, such as Trimble and others that have estimating software, you know, have downloaded all these tables and have updated our own software. So from a contractor standpoint, we do limit that to 10 downloads a day. It also now contains digital or dimensional content in both RFA and ITM format. So that's a new add to the WebLEM that I'll show you that here in a few minutes. And we believe it is the most accurate and complete collection of labor units, like I said before. So that's one of the most valuable benefits for MCA is the WebLEM, we believe. So a little bit of nostalgia here. I'm sure some of you may have seen one of these big yellow books laying around in someone's office, mechanical contracting office. It was in publication for 38 years. And at the end of its publication, it weighed 10 pounds and was 4 inches thick. It contained about 150,000 labor units. But the idea to form this labor estimating manual was discussed at the MCA convention in Los Angeles back in 1968 by the board of directors. And then in 1970, 2 years later, the first edition of that yellow book was published. So today it was, the end of its publication was 38 years old. Today, what we have is the new WebLEM, which is the internet based. So the big yellow book never gets updated any further. So if you see one sitting on somebody's shelf, it certainly isn't up to date. So anyways, the new way is, you know, on the website or the WebLEM itself. Okay, so a couple of changes I wanted to go over that are pretty significant that we've made. We're now making sure that there's a very robust credentialing process to protect MCA's IP. And so now each of the companies have an administrator within their company that is given a password, and then they go in as an administrator and they set what it would be a shared account. And so that your administrator within your company is the one that administrates the passwords and passes them out or sends them out to those of you in your company. Okay, so this is kind of how the process would work. So the administrator for each of the mechanical contractors would go into their profile on the WebLEM. And you can see down here on the bottom left, it shows where the shared password is at. This is the password that each and every person within a company is going to use. So your administrator changes that password on whatever basis they feel is necessary. And if someone happened to leave your company and you want to change that password, you certainly could do so. So that's the admin person that's doing that. Another change that we made was all of the software companies are going to have to basically hit this credentialing soft API to make sure that each and every person that is accessing it has their credentials to do so. So we do that by using a token. So again, your administrator within your company would generate this token. So as shown on the screen, that regenerate subscriber token button would then regenerate or give you a new token. And again, this is your administrator doing this, would click regenerate, a new token number would come out. And then you just copy paste that token number into your estimating software and you're off and running. So none of the software companies yet have this process built into the software, but it is something that they've got basically around 6 months to get that API call or process put into the software. But again, this is something that the administrator for each company will do. And generate this token and then send it out to each of the employees that are within their own company. So that's what that subscriber token is all about. And then next, what I'd like to talk about just briefly is when we formulate labor units, we use basically two formulas to do so. And one of them is to generate labor units for pipe, and then the other one is for pretty much everything else except equipment. So two of the biggest factors that drive the labor units for the MCA are the type of joint that you're getting ready to make. So, if it's in what I'm showing on the screen is just a wide variety of different joining methods, all the way from PEX, which is really darn quick, all the way up to a welded joint. We all know that it takes a long time for that. Okay, so that is the largest component of the MCA labor unit, is the joining method. The second largest item that drives that labor unit is the weight of the item. So obviously, the heavier the item is, the longer it takes to put it in. So in those two formulas, the empirical formulas that we use, the two largest components of those formulas are the joining method and the weight of the item. And so just like it shows on this slide, that, they're pretty much in progression there. PEX is going to be the fastest, then threaded, then grooved, and then on up to welded, So that's how we do that. And then all your other joining methods are somewhere in between, I would say. So at this time, what I'd like to do is let's just jump into the WebLEM and let's check out some of the changes that we've had here. So I'm going to jump over to the home page on the WebLEM, and I'm already signed in here. And you'll notice up on the top, it says, "Welcome, Ron King." And this is where I would find my profile up here. So those of you that are the administrators within your company, you'd simply do the same thing. Log on, go up and click on your name, and you can get to your profile. If you click on your profile, you can then go in and administer or change your password like I was showing before. And that's where you'll take care of that type of stuff is in your profile. Okay, then across the top, we've just got our different, on this ribbon, we've got the different topics that you might want to choose. Over here on the right-hand side is a provide feedback number or button. And that, if you got any feedback to the WebLEM committee, we'd love to hear your feedback. If you have different type of material that you're using that we may not have in the WebLEM, that would be a way that you could get the request to us. That goes out to Nick Pouffard from the MCA, and then he can get that out to one of the committee members, and we'd get on that request. As we look down through, you'll see that we've got the tree. And over here on the tree, there's some things that I'd like to just bring your attention to, especially if you have new estimators that are within your company. There's things that they need to read, absolutely talking about the proper use of the WebLEM. And very, very important is the basic assumptions. So everybody needs to know what the basic assumptions of your estimating systems are based upon, right? So can that widget be installed at 6 foot high off the ground at the same labor as 100 foot up a tower? Well, no, so you would need to apply some correction factors. So that's where the basic assumptions come in to tell you what those basic assumptions are of the estimating system. Then you would come on down, there's where the correction factors are at. And if you're wanting to do any labor correction factoring, there you go. Now let's move right on down to the hanger area, and I'll show you some of the new things that we've done in there. We've broken up the hanger assemblies into hanger components. So if we were to go in and look at any of these components, and I'm going to click on the anchor or insert, and you'll notice that on there now, we did add some pictures to the top of it, perhaps to help those that are new to the industry, perhaps. So if it's a drop-in anchor versus a bang-it or wood knocker versus a quick bolt or epoxy anchor. So we've added some pictures on there, and then the labor units for each of those. And then in order to navigate back, we've got our little breadcrumb up here at the top. I can navigate right back to hanger components. And if you go down through the different hanger components, it's going to be the same exact thing. All thread rod, got a little picture of all thread rod up there, and then the labor hours of that. So I won't go through any more hanger components, but we'll jump on down next, and we'll go in and let's go ahead and look at the piping systems. We've got a little note here in piping systems. If I collapse that, you'll see the note there that says that do not combine the component method with the work activity method. They're not to be combined. You either use it the component method way or the work activity method way. And I'll explain the differences between those two here in a second. Let's dive in and let's just look at one of these tables real quick. Let's go into fittings, and I'm going to hit carbon steel grooved. We'll go into the groove table, standard weight. Now, as that's coming up and loading on us, we're going to notice that across the top, again, we have our breadcrumb where we can navigate back to the groove section or even higher to the fitting section. We notice that, we can print this table. We can download the table. I have 3 tabs now across the top. The component method, which if I look down at some of the labor units down here, these labor units are the component method labor units, which is an all-in type labor unit, meaning it has everything soup to nuts from unloading it off to the truck all the way to getting the thing installed. Whereas the work activity method, I'll click on it, the work activity method is broken down into each individual tasks. And for this, what we're looking at here, obviously these numbers are much smaller because that's just the installation time for this particular item. So an 11¼ degree, 90 degree, or 11¼ degree elbow, 2-inch in size, has an installation time of 0.09 hours. Then the last tab across the top is an ID tab. So now MCA has released or revealed the code behind the numbers, and this is what the software companies will use in order to update labor units into the software systems. So those are the 3 new tabs that are across the top: the component method, the work activity method, and then that MCA identifier method. Something else that's new is over here. If I wanted to look at manufacturer content on here, I would click on select manufacturer, and then every manufacturer who is participating in this would show up in this list. Today, Victaulic is the only one. We are certainly encouraging other manufacturers to do this. We just rolled this out early this year. And the ones that we're onboarding first are going to be ones that are part of the MCA Supplier Council. So if I click on Victaulic, now you'll notice that in the grid down below, anything that has a little blue triangle in the bottom of it, that means that has some content behind it. So I'm going to click on that item. And now when it comes up over here on the right-hand side, we'll see that we've got a couple different options. You have painted or galvanized. Let's say it's going to be painted. And now here is the information behind that. It gives the MCA ID up here at the top. Its size is 2-inch. The manufacturer's Victaulic. It gives a model number, the UPC code, the Harrison code, the trade service code, what the weight of that item is. It gives a PNG. So if I click on that, I'll get a PNG of that 22.5 degree fitting. I can also download the ITM associated with that from Victaulic or the RFA associated with that. I can also download the cut sheet or an O&M manual. So this is all something that's very new to the WebLEM, is being able to have manufacturers put links to their content onto the website. So again, I want to stress, it's not their content on the website, it's links to their content on the website. That way, we as MCA don't have to administer that content and keep it up to date. It's up to them to do so. So that's some of the great things that we've changed to the table view here with the WebLEM. So now I'll switch back into that presentation. And just to give you some stats on this, that piping folder that I was in just a second ago, there is 136,000 component method labor unit values just in the piping items folder. And there's 138,000 work activity method labor units in that piping folder. So again, when I say that, we're very proud of the number of labor units that we have within MCA to give the membership, those numbers just speak volumes. There's just no other association out there that has anything that's even close to that. Okay, so let's talk just a few minutes about that MCA component method versus the work activity method. So when I talk about the component method, again, I said it was an all-in method. That means that it's soup to nuts. It contains everything. That labor unit for that 6-inch carbon steel standard weight, 90-degree elbow, has everything from unloading the item at either the fab shop or the job site all the way to getting it installed. It includes, any type of a cut, pipe cut, a bevel, the weld, everything, hydro testing. It's soup to nuts. Whereas a work activity method, we've taken those component methods and we've broken them down into individual activities, such as the cut, the bevel, if you need a TIG root, if you need to have hydro testing, all those different things. They're all different activities now instead of being one all-in number. Okay, so let me explain some of the differences or reasons why we did this. So on the screen, you'll see a spool right now that's got a bunch of back-to-back fittings. Well, back in 1968, when the WebLEM was in the inception of the WebLEM, one of the things that we don't know as a committee is what are they going to attach that fitting to? So we had to take the approach that it was going to be attached to another fitting. Well, in the case of a high line, there's not a whole lot of fitting density in a high line or the pipe line. But you get in a mechanical room and that fitting density is going to increase dramatically. And a lot of times you can have back-to-back fittings. So we really didn't give the mechanical contractor a way to adjust for those back-to-back fittings. Well, with the work activity method, you absolutely are only counting the number of welds that you need or cuts, and there is no extra fat. So in this particular example here, where we've got a 12-inch main, stainless main, and the branch off that T is I believe it's 10-inch in size. No, sorry, it's 8-inch in size. We've got a total of 25.22 hours that are not needed in those 3 welds there. So on the main, you've got the 12-inch flange that is welded to that T. And then on the branch, on the 8-inch side, you've got the 90 that's welded to the branch of the T, and then another 90 back to that first 90. So at any rate, there's 25.25 hours that using the new work activity method, you would not have in your estimate. Whereas if you were using the component method, those labor hours would be in your estimate. So as you can see, you can hone the fat out to get to a much more exact number. But again, it is taking the fat out of the bid. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so what does that WAM offer? It allows you to break down the labor units into tasks such as the cut and bevel, the TIG root, post-weld heat treat or preheat, handling of the pipe and fittings, the valves, flanges, spool erection, bolt up, hydro testing, all of these different categories and many, many more. It allows you to break it down. So now, if you want to find the labor unit just for the pipe cutting, we can give you, you can look up that labor unit. There's a labor unit associated just with that. Argon purge. If you need to have a purge based on whatever size it is, and you can look up the purge number and add that into your estimate as well. If you need a TIG root adder, there's an adder for TIG root. When it comes to welding, all of the tables have a footnote at the bottom of them, and they all talk about the welding process that is the basic assumption in which those labor units were formulated. And they're all a stick process because each and every shop has automation that we don't know what they may have. So everything's based on stick, and then you'll use a performance factor in order to derate or adjust those labor units to be your own labor units. Okay, so if you happen to have a submerged arc machine, for example, or roto weld, you're going to be tweaking those numbers down, obviously, because it's a lot more efficient than what a stick weld would be. We now have labor units for the preheat and post-weld heat treat processes, like I said before, pipe handling of the spools to get it loaded onto the truck. Then once it gets to the job site, the ability to figure out exactly how much it's going to take labor hour-wise in order to get that spool up and into place. Bolt up has also been broken out. In the component method, the bolt up is included with the flange. Okay, so whenever you take off a flange in the component method, the old way, the bolt up is already buried in there. So a lot of times that flanging bolting up has to happen once it hits the field, may or may not happen in the fab shop. So now you have the ability to move that bolt to the field and do that bolt up there. Hydro testing, in the component method, we have 2% of that labor unit on all component method is hydro testing. In the new work activity method, we've given you a variety of different ones to choose from, because at the end of the day, the 2% may not be enough. So we've given you different situations. You may have a flange by flange spool. It's simple, put blinds on the end of it, pump it up, test it. What happens if it's flanged by balled in? What happens if it's balled in by balled in? So anyways, we've given you a bunch of different examples and labor units there so that you can adjust, because we believe in a lot of situations that 2% just isn't enough. So the WebLEM Plus, wrapping up, we believe that it's the most accurate and complete collection of labor units that are used within our industry. Make sure that you understand those basic assumptions for the labor units and apply any necessary labor correction or performance factors. And also want to give a plug for the MCA Online piping and usage specification. It's a website. It's called Opus. And again, for new hires that come into your company and you're trying to teach them what the different systems are and what the materials would be to be used for those systems, this is another great tool that they could use in order to to get acclimated with those types of things. So I don't know if there's any questions or not. I don't know if we were supposed to ask for any questions. I'd be happy to take any, but if not, on behalf of myself and MCA, I truly am thrilled that you asked me to come do this, and I thank you. And Simon, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you so much, Ron. We are going to go to a break now, and Ron, if your video is working, you can make it into the networking cafe. That could be a great place for people to go and ask any questions and stuff that they might have over the break.